button because I forgot to do that. Okay. And so without further ado, let's get this party started, as they say back in the day, right? Stop here. Sorry, guys. Okay. So today we have our panelists, Miss Amy Robinson. Ms. Amy Robinson, with 12 years of experience in education, Amy Robinson knows that student success directly impacts the community's success. Currently, she serves as a lead district mentor for Beaufort County School District and a board member for the South Carolina Center of Educator Recruitment, Retention, and Advancement. Ms. Robinson began her career as a middle school band director at Well Branch Middle School in Seabrook, South Carolina. During that time, she was named the 2014-2015 Beaufort County School District Teacher of the Year. Ms. Robinson is a two-time graduate of South Carolina State University. She first obtained her BA in music education in 2005 and later returned to receive her EDS in education administration in 2018. She is currently completing her doctoral studies at Liberty University in educational leadership. Let's please welcome Ms. Amy Robinson. Next, we have Dr. Demera M Hightower. Dr. Demera, I hope I'm saying that right, Hightower Mitchell, has garnered a 360-degree view of education through leadership roles in K through 16, State Department, and the nonprofit sector as a teacher, administrator, and teacher educator. She has served as an education associate for educator preparation at the South Carolina State Department of Education, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Accreditation Assistant Professor at Clafton University, Academic Administrator in the Office of the Provost as Lead for Assessment of the Quality Enhancement Plan at the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and its 4 regional campuses. She served as the Dean of Education, Health and Human Services, and Associate Professor at her undergraduate alma mater, Benedict College. She served as Vice President of Engagement and Partnership at the Branch Alliance for Educator Diversity, a national nonprofit and technical assistance provider for minorities serving institutions. And currently, she's the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs and Executive Director of the Center of Excellence for Educator Preparation and Innovation at Voorhees College. Dr. Hightower Mitchell's Scholarship and Publication Center, Educational Equity for Underrepresented Populations, Educator Preparation at Historically Black Colleges and Universities, African Diaspora, Literacy, and the Intersectionality of Being a Mother and an Educator. Welcome, Dr. Demera Hightower Mitchell. And next, we have Mr. Terrence Tucker. Oops. Sorry. Terrence Tucker is the founder of the Tuck Project, a mentoring program aimed at promoting male achievement through the Columbia, South Carolina, and Augusta, Georgia regions. An extremely gifted and engaging motivational speaker, Terrence has spoken at over 100 middle and high schools and colleges, as well as 5 federal prisons and juvenile detention centers around the South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina region. Mr. Tucker has also delivered over 40 keynote addresses. In addition to motivational speaking, Terrence teaches life skills courses at 2 South Carolina federal prisons. Terrence, born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, is a proud graduate of C.A. Johnson High School, and he's also a proud alumnus of South Carolina State University, where he earned both a Bachelor of Science degree in sports management and a Master's in rehabilitation counseling. In 2007, he was honored as South Carolina State University 2007 Scholar of the Year. Terrence is heavily engaged as a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He was voted the Epsilon Omega 2017 Citizen of the Year for his selfless dedication and community service efforts within the community. Welcome, Terrence. So as you can see, we have some heavy hitters here that know all about HBCUs and higher education. So we are excited to have you guys as a panel members to be able to discuss your experiences and just kind of promote HBCUs. Okay, so the way that this is going to work is that we have our sorority members in the panel, on the site that have questions for you all. And this is more conversational. I want us to feel like we're, on campus, sitting in the main quad there, all just getting around talking about what makes our HBCU special. And also to encourage other young adults to want to go to our schools. So we will now begin with our questions. And let's see, who's first up?
I am.
Soror Jessica?
Yes. Good morning. We're going to start our questions off with admissions. When should you start taking the SAT or ACT? Are there any study materials available to help prepare one for taking these tests? And I guess anyone?
So I'll chime in. I taught at the middle school level for 11 years, and I saw that it was more productive for students to take the prep for during that time. ACT, ACT, SAT, taking that prep during their middle school year, preferably that 8th grade year. If they are, advancing well enough, maybe even looking at the 7th grade year. It is free for that prep. So if it's not something that is offered outright where you're receiving notifications about it, then I suggest, contacting school counselors to say, hey, when is this prep ready? Or when will it be available? Also, I know in Beaufort County, in the Beaufort County libraries here, and I'm sure this is statewide in South Carolina, they do have areas where online you can go on to practice prep, and also they have a section where old-fashioned books, to get that prep as well. So I do suggest doing the prep at the middle school level, no later than 9th grade.
Just to kind of piggyback from what my fellow Bulldog said, you have to get them started as soon as possible, y'all. Please don't wait to your junior year, your senior year, because it might be too late by then. Okay, my mentor nonprofit, we purchase books from we purchase prep books from Barnes and Nobles for for these young men when they're coming to the 9th grade, because we want to make sure that they have the proper tools they need. Not to put my high school, not to put them down or anything like that. But we were not told about these tests when I was in school. So we were not prepared properly. So I, make sure that I do my, let's say, due diligence to make sure my young men have what they need. Shoot, man, leaving the 7th grade almost nowadays, right? Because they have so many tools right now, because, man, you can go to your phone right now and you can become the smartest person, right? So, use your Google and all, right? But we have to make sure as parents, mentors or guardians, we have to make sure that these young men, not just young men, but these young women as well have what they need. Yes, ma'am. So as soon as possible, as soon as possible.
And so the only thing I'll add to what my colleague said on the panel is that there's also, so for a lot of people studying with the books, as you said, old-fashioned books, sometimes that's the best way to study, but then there are also opportunities to practice online. They've got a lot of free different kinds of opportunities for you now. And so even things like Khan Academy, they have certain skill sets and tutorials and things to help you with different areas. And so as you're taking different kinds of little inventories is what they call them. So it's a little survey or a quiz about what you're strong in, what your interests are. There's lots of ways to find out about how to get more information in those different areas. Also, you've got, sometimes you're blessed to be in a school where you've got guidance counselors there who can give you additional information about what's available as well. So you don't have to wait until someone approaches you. You can approach them about getting more information about how to get ready for some of these tests. And then you have people like in your community, people like the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha who will provide you with different information too. So if you happen to be in the space where you've got people who are educators and you are interested in going to school, make sure you reach out to them, because I am actually, I went to school and I am a lady of Alpha Kappa Alpha because there was a guidance counselor at another high school who felt like I needed information and support in how I thought about getting ready for school. So just do know that there are answers and support from all over the place, and it is never too early. So middle school is absolutely a great time to begin that process. If you wait till high school, you're a little bit behind the eight ball, and you don't have to be. You don't have to be. So start early.
Great, thank you for that. Good morning again.
Good morning.
My question is, before you decided on choosing a college or university, do you feel your school counselor spoke highly in regards to an HBCU when it came down to recruiting?
So for me, my 10th grade year, my guidance counselor sat down with me and my mother, and she told me and my mother that I was not college material.
Oh my.
And she told me to start looking at a, trade or maybe join the military. So college was not even, an option for me via her, right? So I, thank God that I had a, mother who played deaf that day, right? And she did not listen to that guidance counselor. But I had to make sure that I did my work, right? But what I did have, because, my parents didn't go to college, and, their parents didn't go to college. And so, we came from a, region where, most people just didn't go to college. So I leaned on my mentors who, would take me on, what we call those nice little, college tours. And the first school that I went to was the South Carolina State University. And that was the last school I wanted to see. Because, man, they won me over. So when I went back to school, that next Monday, and, told my guidance counselor where I wanted to go to school, she said it's not possible. So, make sure you guys listen. Make sure you talk to those guidance counselors, but, make sure that, you have the right guidance counselor.
That's right.
Yeah, please be careful what you're listening to.
I think that the last statement you just made is so powerful. So let me just say, I too am first generation, which is one of the reasons why I love TRIO programs. It was where I actually started my career in higher ed. And I did not know about TRIO programs when I was in school. So let me just back up a little bit and tell you, my parents were teenagers when I was born. And so, and did not go to college. So they didn't have a whole lot of information to give me when it came time to get ready for college. And I was determined that I didn't want to trouble them. So I had a whole plan. I was going to the military, but I was a little young. And so I needed my parents' signature to sign. I'd done everything I could do except the physical. I needed my parents' signature. And they knew me well enough at that time to know that they couldn't just outright say they didn't want me to go to the military. So both of them took turns having different reasons why they could not make it to that location and sign that paperwork. But that was actually divine intervention, because I happened to be in Fashionetta in Wichita, Kansas, by the way. So, and that's important for this particular conversation. And it was all about helping us get ready for our future. And I remember one particular session, we were all going around the circle talking about our little plans for our future. And I told them I was going to the military and I was going to do this. I was going to the Air Force. And one of the ladies said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with the military. In fact, it's a great option for many people. But I have a feeling there's something else you're supposed to be doing. And she was that guidance counselor at a different high school who brought me paperwork and had me apply to Benedict College. And I had my own plan, but I felt like she was interested enough in me and cared enough that I went ahead and I filled out the paperwork for her just to be respectful. And I went on about my business trying to work my plan for the military. And around about the same time when I realized my parents were playing games, that scholarship came from Benedict. And that's when I found out I got a full academic scholarship. And that's how I ended up down south. But what you need to know is Wichita at the time was very, very white. So I literally came down south looking for Black people.
Yeah.
I wanted to know more about my heritage. Once I bought into the notion of, okay, so maybe college is for me, I only applied to HBCUs. And again, it was at the prompting of that guidance counselor that I started looking at other HBCUs. And Benedict is where I chose to go. They gave me the most money. It was free. I felt like I was gonna get a real experience being down south. And as you can see, several years later, I am still here in South Carolina. And so that is my journey, but it was not the guidance counselors in my schools. And even though I had strong grades, but for whatever reason, those weren't conversations they were having with me in my school. And so to Mr. Tucker's point, you've got to make sure that you're clear that no one else determines what your future is. And when other people see something in you and they're pouring into you, even when you don't see it, believe them. Don't believe the naysayers. Believe the other people who see something in you, and sometimes follow their guidance, even if you don't necessarily understand what it is they see at the moment.
Can I say something? Oh, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
No, go ahead.
Just to kind of piggyback. So where I grew up at was right across the street from Benedict College. Right, literally right across the street from Benedict College. Those housing projects right across the street from there, right? And it's crazy because when I would walk to the store to get milk for my mom, right? You would see these men, like, Benedict College man taught me that you can be a Black man and want to go to school. Because my environment, did not teach me that, right? So, walking, to the store, man, you would see, these Black men, with book bags on, going to class. That was new to me, right? Because, my high school, we had a high dropout rate, high crime rate. And, my 9th grade year, none of my friends went to the 10th grade, right? So when you would go to that campus, when you would, when you would walk through that campus, that was my first time seeing Black men wanting to actually go to school, right? So Benedict College really changed my whole perception, about college, right? And, they will always be near dear to my heart because they changed my life, man.
And that HBCUs, that is the point. They will change your life for the better. I was fortunate. I'm not first generation. My mother went to South Carolina State University. My dad went to Savannah State University. So my family, I was seeing HBCUs. We would go to homecoming And just being on that campus, on those campuses, I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU. Just like my fellow panelists said, a guidance counselor at the school did not focus on South Carolina State, did not encourage me to go to South Carolina State or any HBCU. Actually, when I would say I wanted to go to South Carolina State University, they would say, oh, USC. No, I don't want to go to USC. I don't want to go to University of South Carolina. It's South Carolina State University. When students would talk about North Carolina A&T, oh, the Tar Heels. No, the Aggies. So, you know, fortunate enough, I was in a group at my school of diverse students, and a lot of them knew about HBCUs. So we would talk about them, and we weren't discouraged to go to those in that group. And college visits, I encourage any and everybody, whether you're Black, brown, white, purple, whatever, to go on a college visit to an HBCU. And when you're there, the atmosphere, you'll know if you want to go to an HBCU or not. And no one can tell you, you know, you shouldn't go there. And also a lot of there's a negative stigma that comes with HBCUs a lot of times. But just like everything else, you do your research. You see all the graduates of those HBCUs, and when you see all the accomplishments that HBCU graduates have made throughout history, then you'll know, well, there's some, you know, false rumors there, or, you know, to the detriment, you know, of HBCUs. So you have to, I won't say that it's always a school counselor that looks like us that will also promote HBCUs. You have to be very cautious of that as well. But there is the right counselor that will, you know, steer you in the right direction and won't, you know, put a shadow on what you're trying to accomplish. So just do your research, and if you're determined to go to a HBCU, don't let anyone deter you from that path.
All right. Next question. If you are undecided with a major, what steps should you take on declaring a major?
That's a great and
That's a
important
great question.
That is.
So a couple of things is, for me, knowing as much as you can about yourself, what it is you enjoy, what you're strong in, like, when do you feel alive? What are you doing? What class is it that really gets you going? Start thinking about those kinds of things, because there's nothing worse than being in school and being in a program that does not resonate or line up with who you are. That's doing hard time. Is what that is. So make sure you choose a major that speaks to you. The other thing is, so there are I talk about inventories, but there are little quizzes you can take to kind of give you an idea of the kinds of things that you're strong in or something that you might be talented in. And the other thing is, especially depending on what age group you're in, to talk to other people who know you well, who might have some suggestions and things that you can think about or consider. Or if you see someone doing something around you, whether it's in your community, your family, your church, and you see that they have an interesting job, try to find out a little bit more about that. And that's important, because that should also be a part of your decision when you're thinking about what school you should go to. A lot of times we choose colleges for all kinds of reasons. But if you've got a particular career goal, and that college doesn't offer that particular program, that's not necessarily the right choice for you. So there's a lot of factors. Now, I will tell you, because of how I went to school, I wasn't clear about what my major was going to be. I wasn't clear about what majors Benedict offered. It literally was, Benedict gave me the most money. I knew I wanted it to be an HBCU, and I was going to work it out, whatever it was they had on that campus once I got there. That was my plan. That is not what you do. I just want you to know. I want you all to do some things and do them better. I just bumped into some things. Thank God it worked out, but that's not how you do it. So definitely learn as much as you can about who you are and what you're passionate in. People will tell you, oh, go after the degrees that make money. My dad, as well-meaning as he was, wanted me to be a dentist. They make money. Well, I don't do blood and I don't do bad breath. So I would not be a good dentist. That was not a good choice for me. That was the best information he had for me at that time. So again, make sure that you're checking in with people who can guide you and help you make some great choices.
That is very true. Like what you said the inventories, that's a great way. Another way, a lot of high schools have partnerships with other colleges, technical schools
Yes.
in the district. So if your student can, have them do some dual enrollment, take some
Yes.
college courses. That way, if they are undetermined by the time that time comes with graduation and it's time for them to go to school, it's not like they're so behind. They already have some credits underneath their belt. So, and then also those courses can kind of maybe they like what they're doing. Maybe they thought that they wanted to go into engineering, but they took this mathematics class and the dual enrollment. They're like, oh, this is a lot for me, you know? So, I suggest definitely taking those technical college courses to help kind of guide the direction of what they might major in. And Dr. Mitchell, you said that you don't recommend going to the school that offers you the most money. But listen, when you could get out of school with no debt,
Hello.
let's see let me see what one of these majors I could go and be successful in and without having debt. So I don't know if that's such a bad plan.
That's not a bad option at all.
It worked out. It just worked out. But I promise you, I didn't know what Benedict looked like. I didn't know what gloves they had. I hadn't visited. It's a few things. God was just looking out. You know, they say he looks after fools and babies. And I was a little bit of both now.
Amen.
But definitely back then. So it came together. It came together.
Hey, go where the money at. That's what I'm Go where the money at. Telling, because these student loans don't care nothing about you. You know, it's so, man, they said it all really. You know, my story was kind of different because you know, when I left high school, you know, I really had no direction, you know, no guidance. So I just got a job right when I left high school, and I became a janitor for 3 years. Then my auntie, man, salute to the most wonderful person, man. You know, Dr. Judith Sally was the dean of students for South Carolina State University. And she called me one morning and, man, she said, listen, man, you going to school. Right, next semester, man, me and your mama are tired of you. You're going to school, right? So listen, don't ask me how she got me in South Carolina State because, man, it might be against the law, okay? And, you know, people telling these days, man, people snitching, okay? So listen, do not record this, all right? But she got me in South Carolina State, man. Man, listen, man, she made my schedule. Man, she picked my major, okay? She picked it all for me, okay? But I knew that she put me in PE, right? Physical, well, back then they called it kinesiology, right? But man, that was the hardest major ever, right? Because, you know, we had to take so many different science courses, right? But to kind of piggyback off what Dr. Mitchell said, you have to know yourself first, right? You know, do your own research, you know, because my passion was helping people, right? That was my passion. So when I finished school, and, you know, when I went back to get my master's, the number one thing that I realized was, well, you know, let me pick a, you know, major, you know, where I can help people. So that's why I got into the whole counseling field, because, you know, I saw so many people, you know, my dad was a veteran, you know, my sister was a veteran, you know, my cousins, my uncles, my friends had issues that were not being resolved. And there was not men, you know, that looked like me helping them. right? So, that's why I went back to, men from my region, don't get their master's, right? Then men, from my region of town don't even get their college degree, okay? So, whenever, I got tired of going to the VA hospital and seeing, these white men helping my dad, right? So I wanted to get out there and fight for myself as well, right? And then I wanted to actually show my mentees that, listen, man, you can be whatever you want to be, right? No matter what color skin you are. And, that's what I did, so I strongly encourage you guys to make sure your kids, right, or your family members know exactly what they want to do, right? Preferably by their sophomore year in high school, okay? Start doing your research right now, just like, man, Dr. Mitchell mentioned, man, that trio program saved my life, right? But I played around when I was in the trio program, didn't take it serious at all, right? But I realized something, man, that what you learn, there was this guy named Robert Reese, who was the director, for that program. And Mr. Reese, man, used to call me every single year, say, man, you still cleaning them buildings? Man, you better get in that school, man, go to school. So, listen, my response to him, would always be, man, Mr. Reese, I'm just not college material, man. He said, man, yes, you are, man. I'm telling you, you can do it, right? Yeah. So when I got into school, man, I just, the best thing that I did was to surround myself with positive people.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And those positive people knew exactly what they wanted to do, right? So, that's what I had to realize, right? What do I want to do, right, with my life? These next 20, 30, 40 years, what do you want to do with your life? So, right, so, you have to start looking right now when you're a freshman in high school, right? You have to start realizing, what do you want to do, with, with your life, these next 20, 30, 40 years?
Can I share something? A couple of things have been said that just really are powerful, and I want to make sure we don't miss this particular opportunity. The first thing is, let me apologize, because y'all did not get Dr. Mitchell today. Y'all got Demera. So I'm just going to talk the way that I need to really, because I want to make sure that we are as authentic. You all have presented this great opportunity to have real conversations. So I want to make sure that we do. What I love even about the three panels, first of all, I believe no matter what happens, even when you invite 100 people and 2 show up, it's precisely the 2 people who are supposed to be there. And I love the combination on this particular panel. And let me tell you why, because we're coming at it from different angles. And I think it really brings a point that's critical. So Mr. Tucker and I are both first generation. Ms. Robinson is not. What I love is that none of us need to apologize for our where we begin. It is a beautiful thing that she comes from a family with a college going tradition, who could expose her and show her the different opportunities there are, and have her have opportunity to make some choices about how she was going to pursue things. But it's also a beautiful thing that we came from families where we understand that the beginning. And so I used to feel, I struggled with the fact that my parents were teenagers and that they weren't married when I was born, right? But then what I'm clear about is one of the reasons I'm here is because I am walking proof that the circumstances of your birth do not determine the trajectory of your life. And so you don't have to apologize. So when you come from a great experience, you don't have to apologize for that. You don't owe anybody that. You walk in it and you be proud of it. And when you come from a background where there were struggles and challenges, you don't have to be ashamed of that. You be proud of that. You walk in it, you own it, and you demonstrate that there are possibilities. I'm first, but I'm not last. I came from a family where there were a whole lot of teenagers having babies, and I'm the oldest cousin on both sides of my family. And all of us, so I came from a family, my mama felt like if you didn't get a nickname, your people didn't love you enough. So we all have nicknames. My name is Demera Renee. My family called me Nene. Well, in my family, Nene is a doctor. Pookie Cornell is an attorney. Tisha is a FBI agent, and actually and I forget the term of it, but she runs it. She's not just an agent. She's an agent in charge. Colleen, we call her Wiggles, is the gifted and talented teacher in the district. Keisha, love Keisha, she had a few names. She's a physical therapist for babies. And I'm saying every last one of us, our parents were young. By grandma, I don't know how she was sane by the time the girls finished with her. But my point is that you won't necessarily, and sometimes you'll arrive at colleges and you don't know what your major is going to be, or you don't have all the answers. It's okay. It really is about, though, trying to connect with people and getting as much help and support as you can from a lot of different sources. And sometimes those people are in your family, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's a Robin Reese's who sees something in you and call you and will force you. And sometimes they'll even hurt your feelings because they're trying to push you. And it's okay. And then the last thing I'll say is, you've got, you talked about the dean who did a couple of things. That we are being recorded, so let me clean that up just a little bit. You know, every college, they have some provisional admissions. They can do some things, which is another point that Mr. Tucker, I'm so glad you raised. It is just because you don't have all the scores and the grades together, doesn't mean you're out of the count. Doesn't mean that you can't still go to college. So don't necessarily give up because you didn't make all the right choices and you didn't get all the right grades. It is never too late, and there are different opportunities, and success looks like this. It happens in a lot of different ways. So I just wanted to kind of throw those things out. So thank you all for indulging me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that actually brings us perfectly into our next segment, which is support systems. And so we have some questions around the support that you receive at an HBCU.
Hello, everyone. I'm telling you, we're having some hallelujah moments here today. No, I know some of us know Robert Reese, so we know what you had to go through. My question is, and you all have touched on a lot of what my question encompasses, and that is, can you tell us about the academic support services on campus, such as tutoring, writing centers, and TRIO, which, all of us are familiar with all of the academic supports, please. Thank you, that you may have experienced or suggest students to inquire about when they are getting ready or even in college.
So we had the writing center. I wish I utilized it more than I did. Of course, we had the tutoring. One thing I really enjoyed, because I was an education major, and we had the minority recruitment office. And in that office, I would go in there crying because I couldn't understand some of the stuff that was required. We had to pass the praxis before graduating. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to graduate because I can't pass this one part of the praxis. And I was able to go in there and they would sit down with me. It would be the end. They had their own work to do, but they would sit down with me. They knew me, and that's a big point too. They knew me by name. It's not like they knew me by a number, like you would experience in big universities. But I would go in there and they said, okay, Amy, so what did you do on this? I have to, they were my parents there pretty much. And they would walk me through every single step. They provided me extra money when I did not have money to take the test. When I was in college, my father actually passed, and they were even supportive in that manner. They were able to give me extra money to continue school. I even had, because I was also in the band, Marching 101, and the band director, Mr. Ellis at the time, he even said, hey, we're going to come down there to the funeral. I don't know how many times that happens when you go to universities, but the fact that you have professors saying, hey, I'm going to come there to support you. I'm coming to the funeral. And we're there. It's one thing to talk the talk, but to walk the walk. But like I said, they helped in every aspect of my personal life and with academics. And another thing, we're saying a lot of names. We're saying Dr. Sally. No, Dr. Sally. We said Mr. Reese. I don't know who he is, but I had times just as soon as last year, not even last year, I'm thinking last school year. So this was in May, and I was making a change in my career. And the fact that I was able to call my professor, have a cell phone number, and, ask questions, even now, and still calling me Amy, like, you're not a doctor yet? I should be calling you doctor. No, I'm not a doctor yet. but still calling me by my first name. And I had a colleague of mine who was standing next to me when I was on that conversation. And she went to a predominantly white school. And she said, "You're able to call your professor from college?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're not able to?" She was like, "No, they didn't even know who I was. The classes will be so big, and I'm just sitting, in the audience. They wouldn't know if I was there or if I wasn't. I was just a number. They didn't know my name. I can't call any of them. It was just a class that I went to." So beyond just the services that they offer, the formal services, I should say, that colleges offer, you also have that additional support of your professors, the deans, that make it a point to know you on a first name basis and to reach out to you beyond academia, looking out for you on the personal aspect as well.
I had no idea, what was about to happen when I got to South Carolina State University. My aunt knew so many people, and me coming there, man, brought about so many changes with my life. So when I was in high school, man, the story, you're a star football player, right? Star basketball player. So I failed to, let's say, take school serious, right? When I was, in school. So when I got to South Carolina State, I knew that I struggled with some things. And one was reading and writing and math. So I knew that my aunt, man, she pulled so many strings for this to happen. So I had to make sure that I did my due diligence, right? So I had to really, let's say, do some real deep soul searching, okay? So the first thing that I did was went to the tutoring department. That was the first thing I did. There was this young lady who was an AKA named Crystal Smith from Barbados. And she tutored me Monday through Friday for an entire semester. And she was hard on me, y'all. Like she was extremely hard on me, but man, she saved my life. She saved my entire life because listen, man, without her, but I wouldn't have made it, but we became family. And, whenever you walk into those classrooms, man, like I said, you never know how popular your family is, because there was not a teacher on that campus that did not know that I was Dr. Sally's nephew, okay? So they were watching me, man, from the time I walked in the class to the time that I went back to my car. Like, they were watching me. They were telling on me when I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to do, right? Snitching on me, right? But it was a family. And when you go to class, you're there with maybe 10 people, right? 15 people, tops. Me and my professors right now, we're all cool, right? We all Facebook, right? We all socialize. Me and some of my college professors from my master's program, we all meet for lunch, right? So I mean, that campus saved my life. And I would always tell people that, till my time is stopped.
So I think one of the true benefits of attending HBCUs is that there are the formal support services that we've started alluded to in some ways, like the writing centers and the tutorials. And then there's the informal support systems as well. So believe it or not, I actually, so as you can see, so Benedict is my undergraduate alma mater, but I am a proud Voorhees Tiger as well. I'm just recently named the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. And just last night, we had the coronation for Miss Voorhees. And one of, I think it was the mother of Mr. Voorhees who was on the mic. She was giving a tribute to her son, but then she stopped for a minute and she called out a name. She said, Miss Queen Smith. You all, Miss Smith is someone in one of the finance offices who would make sure that this young man was on track. And when his mother was trying to find him and needed some information, she would call Miss Queen. So Miss Queen, who wasn't even formally in student support services, would be all in and through his business, making sure that he was doing what it was that he was supposed to do. And so there is all sorts of supports. That's one of the things about that environment. And so what sometimes we miss at our schools, and so one of the things I respect the most about Voorhees is a little bitty, it's a small institution, but it's small and mighty. And the support is very intentional and deliberate. Our intention is to not lose a single student. So if you can come to Voorhees and not be connected, you made some decisions. You decided you were going to dodge us, you were going to work hard, because the commitment is that we really want to make sure that every student succeeds. So there are lots of things in place. For instance, so you got the tutoring where you can go and get your peers. So other college students, maybe they, are sometimes that's the service to the institution, so they'll work with you. But then there are also virtual opportunities where they have people, we pay for professionals that you can go and sign up for. You got a service a lot of time that might work for you in the evenings, on the weekend, and you can sign up for the particular area. You can do it one-on-one, or you can do it in small groups. That's an example. There's also financial kinds of support. Sometimes it's the academics are struggling because you got all the personal going on. And you all, sometimes something as small as $300, $500 to keep somebody from staying in school or returning to school. And so we've got things like emergency funds. So maybe you need a car repair. So there are funds that you can access to help with that while you're trying to finish up school. So there's all sorts of things. We have food pantries for students who might need some things while they're in. Of course, there's counseling. I don't know if you all know too, we've got a veteran center. So Voorhees is one of 4 HBCUs in the country where there's a veteran resource center. So if you are a veteran, if your parents are a veteran, there are funds and resources that you're entitled to. We have a whole office that will help you access those things. So my point is, and all of us, I know at all of our institutions, we could run a litany of different kinds of things that are available to you. There's also counseling. I want to make sure that's clear. So you got the mental health piece. Sometimes there's anxiety just with adjusting to college. And then there are certain things that are just chemical imbalances that make you perceive things a little differently. And it makes it a little harder sometimes. And there is no shame in making sure that you get those resources. At the end of the day, it's about teaching and learning, but there are so many things that impact that. That we have to make sure that we attend to all of it. So it's really critical that you take advantage of everything on those campuses. And our institutions, our HBCUs, are designed in a way where we really want to make sure that we're supporting you in every way possible. So there's a lot out there.
Thank you so very much. Next question.
Yeah, so Rhonda.
No, sorry, Jessica.
I thought it was sorry,
Rhonda.
Jessica. I'm sorry. I can't hear you, Serena.
Yes, we switched some things up a little bit because they have been answering these questions.
Okay,
so
well, I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to jump the gun.
Yes. Some of the stuff
They've
that
already
we
touched on that.
asking, they just automatically covered it. So
yeah, this so
we'll go on to you right now, Rhonda.
All right. Thank you so much. And yes, I know Dr. Sally. I took a class, 2 classes under Dr. Sally. So I know your auntie and I know Robert Reese. Small world, small world. But my question has to do with how do we, and panelist Amy, you kind of touched on this a little bit. You almost went into it a little bit, but this will kind of get more to the point. How do we make sure that we continue, getting older, my eyes not like they used to be. How do we make sure we continue to raise the bar as well as, as well as control the narrative of telling our own story as graduates of HBCUs? More specifically, how do we continue to eliminate and remove barriers and myths about HBCUs that are completely unfounded and untrue?
Ooh, I love that question. I'll take a beat before I get started. Anybody want to go first, panelists?
Well, I think opportunities like this, like what your chapter is doing, I think this is a great step towards removing those barriers. We need more opportunities like this to talk about HBCUs and how it's positively impact our lives. Like I said, taking those tours, and I think somebody put in the chat during when school is in session, because it is completely different over the summer. If you go over the summer, it's like barren land. You see those who are going to summer school, you really don't get to see how it is going to the CAF or being in the plaza, or, you know, all the things that are going on. Acknowledging our own, being more involved when it comes to when students are given an offer, a sports offer to go to schools, and you know, and it's happening. I think we're riding that wave right now where HBCUs are getting the attention that they needed for so long. So I think that support, to keep that support, is having conversations and pushing your kids to go to HBCUs, because that's where our students are going, taking their talents to other places, and those programs are benefiting off of the work that our children are doing. And I don't believe personally that the necessary support is in place for, and I'm trying to be as professional as possible, but the necessary support is in place for our students. Yes, your facilities might be top notch, but what are you doing for that social emotional, when they're looking around and they don't see anybody that looks like them besides who is in the locker room with them? Same thing when they're in class. How are you helping them reach their full potential? Are you just saying, hey, you know what, right now you're at a 1.8, but you're a top player, so we're just going to finagle some things, you know, have this person do this for you so we can bump that up so you can still play? What is that doing for us? What is that doing for that student? We need to look at the whole picture instead of just looking at part of the picture, and just being honest about things. You know, that is a very complex question that you asked, and I think it just starts with us individually, you know, being very intentional in doing our research, doing due diligence when it comes to selecting schools, and just seeing everything that's going on around us. You know, if these things that are happening around us don't influence us to say, you know what, we need to put our resources in our own community, then I don't know what what else we need. Because right now I think everything going around is kind of setting it up to say, hey, there's no other way. We've tried the other way, it's not working. We need to put our resources right here in our community, right here in our schools.
Yes and amen. Soror Sherry, are you I'm not sure if you're raising your hand to speak, or I didn't want to miss you. Okay. So I'll just jump in here. A couple of things. I'm going to say yes and amen to what panelist Amy just shared on a couple of levels. So you are right now, we are hot. And what I mean by that is that everybody's talking about HBCUs and everybody's giving money to different institutions. And truthfully, it's only a hand. It's a few of them that they give a lot of money to. The ones who need it the least are the ones that they give a lot of the funds to. I'm not hating, I'm just observing that is what happens oftentimes with the funds. But let me say this. If you look at what happens with African Americans, when you start looking at the institutions that produce the most doctors, the most scientists, the most educators, it's going to be historically Black institutions. A lot of institutions will enroll us, but they don't always graduate us. So when you're looking at institutions, you want to see, okay, so, all right, so they might admit me, but are they going to put the resources and support in place? Are they going to create the kind of environment that's going to help me actually finish? I call those hospitable spaces. So just because you're going to take my funds and my financial aid, but you're not going to actually commit to making sure that I leave there with the degree that I entered to earn, that's a problem. So I'm a firm believer in really making sure that you really look deeply into making that choice. Now, I'm not going to say HBCUs are for everyone. I just love people enough that I think everybody should have that experience first. I think when you are, especially when you're young and you're first going to college, it's helpful to be in an environment that respects you, where the matter of your intelligence has already been settled, where it's not a question about whether or not you should be in school or whether or not you deserve to be there, but they're trying to figure out how to help you pursue and persist that degree that you enter. That's important. You are, and so I'll give you a little bit of the doctor in me in that there is a cognitive lift that happens when you're in an environment and you're trying to figure out whether or not people are discriminating against you, whether they respect you, whether or not they like you. You're using energy that could be used towards your content and learning. And so it all is almost becomes self-fulfilling because you're struggling and uncomfortable with, and so when you're in an environment where you don't have to really deal with that, you can attend to the content. And so there are some differences there. The other thing is your perception informs your pedagogy. So when people don't believe you can necessarily learn, sometimes when you make a mistake, it's attributed to your ability as opposed to it just being a mistake. When other people assume that other folks are smart when they make the same mistakes, it's just, oh, they were just tired. Oh, they just missed that. So you really have to be careful about the environments that you choose to study in. Now, my undergrad was Benedict. I went to white schools for my my master's and my doctorate, but some of it was because I did start hearing a lot of pushback. Oh, you know, if you go to an HBCU, you are, what I found out very quickly is that Benedict got me ready. Those folks did not have anything for me when I got there because I was ready when I left. So literally the last B I earned in college was at Benedict College. So that is my master's at the University of Southern Mississippi and my doctorate at the University of South Carolina. Nothing but A's because of the foundation that Benedict College gave me. I have professors who threw things back at me when they felt like I gave them garbage. Some of them used words that were not Sunday school words to make sure that I was clear that you are not going to do less than what is that you're capable of. So I was pushed and I had a confidence. So when I got to those other institutions and I had people, and sometimes there were people who had questions about whether or not I should be there, I didn't have those same questions. And eventually they had to come on, whether they wanted to or not. And so it's something about having that foundation and being grounded and being clear about who you are that I think our HBCUs help us do. And it's not that we are perfect and we're going to know everything, but when you understand who you are, when it's not easy, you won't necessarily give up. Which takes me back to another thing, and I won't spend too much time here, but that's why the African diaspora literacy piece of my research is so critical. It's about grounding us in who we are. There's a whole foundation. So I struggle with sometimes when we're at our institutions and we're so busy proving that we're just as good as the other institutions that we leave the B out of the HBCU. So I unapologetically embrace the Black in HBCUs, and I love all people. So let me be clear about that. But I do think there's some things about our culture and our heritage that that we're given as a foundation that help us to be successful and that help us have higher achievement rates and graduation rates at a lot of our institutions than when we go to others.
There's nothing else to be said behind that. Yes, ma'am. She shut it down all the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I did want to bring in and introduce another young lady that may want to interject some of her opinions as well. She is Brianna Frazier, and Brianna is an undergraduate at, let me get it right, at University of South Carolina. Is that correct? Am I saying that right, Janice?
Yeah, Buford. She's
And Buford. Okay.
and yes.
Yes. So I do want to welcome Brianna. And because she is still in school, she would have a whole different perspective on some of the issues and questions that we are discussing today. So I would like to welcome her and invite her to offer any comments on our discussion today as well. And Brianna, do you want to just introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, so hey everybody, I'm Brianna. I'm the president of Upsilon Delta at University of South Carolina, Beaufort. So I've been going to USCB for 4 years now. I'm in the nursing program there. So almost done, almost finished up. I told my mom all the time that if I could do it again, I probably would have joined a HBCU instead, but I chose a different path. I'm mixed, so my mom's, she's white. So HBCU wasn't really talked about in our family. Honestly, college wasn't really talked about. My stepdad went to college, but he wasn't a part of our life till I was a little older, but he always says college is overrated. So he didn't have a big opinion. My father didn't go to college, so my sister went to a technical college. So I guess you can say I'm first generation, but it's just great to hear everybody's experience at a HBCU. I know that like having people that look like you and have the same thoughts as you just makes it easier to, come accustomed to a new life, which is, joining college is a completely new chapter. So I just appreciate y'all coming out to speak to everybody. That was it.
Thank you. The next area topic, we just had one question. We won't go too deep into this here because I know there's so many different areas with this. So we just want to touch on it a little bit, and that's financial aid. And I think Janice has that question.
I do. Would you be so kind as to share with us the types of funding that's available for incoming students or students who are continuing, and not only that, the importance or the what students should do to maintain their financial aid. And see, I was over retention, so could you talk about any and all aspects of financial aid where it will impact a student? Thank you.
So I'll start, and of course, put anyone jump in whenever you're ready. So let me just run it from the very beginning. Of course, if you are a dependent, you're going to need your families, your parents, tax information. That's going to be critical. A lot of times when students are ready to go to school, and depending on your different kinds of situations, sometimes having all the necessary materials and documentation that you're going to need for financial aid. So filling out that FAFSA as early as you possibly can, so that you the paperwork you need, so you'll find out what you need. There are codes you're going to get, so your PIN numbers and all that, you've got to write those things down and have them someplace put up, because you're going to need to be able to go in and out and to get that information. That's one. So tax information, and now some people have different situations. So you might be in a situation where your family is 100% on the same page with you and they're willing to give you that information. Sometimes you are not. If you're a student and you're kind of on your own struggling, there's a way for you to be considered independent, and you would not necessarily need your family's financial aid. You'd be surprised at the students who struggle in this area. So I just want to put that out there. Excellent. Paulette Edwards sort of probably put out here, FAFSA's due October 1st for those who want to go in the fall. So it's coming down the pipe. So get ready. So that's one. The other thing is there's lots of different kinds. So there's the Pell Grant. If you financially and you're eligible, you'll get money for that. There are also, of course, scholarships depending on your GPA. There's certain things that you can get, the Life and the Hope Scholarship here in South Carolina. I also want you to know, though, that you can also apply to independent things. So sometimes there are churches and organizations that have scholarships that you can apply for, that you can get, pots of money for when you're first going to school. Once you're in school, though, there's a whole suite of scholarships a lot of people miss offered through UNCF. And a lot of students don't apply because you have to do essays. What I can tell you, though, is you write a couple of essay or two, and you can tweak that same essay over and over again for different pots of money. So you can get some help from the Writing Center or wherever and keep applying to that money. So do not leave that money on the table, y'all. It's a lot of scholarships out that a number of students do not apply for. And a lot of it is simply because of that essay, but people can help you. The other thing is depending on your major, there are different opportunities. For instance, our panelist Robinson was talking about she wanted to be a teacher. There are things called teach grants. There's a South Carolina teacher loan that if you promise to teach in South Carolina for a certain amount of years following, those things are forgiven. So sometimes they can start off as they can become a grant and you don't have to pay it back if you actually fulfill it. If you don't fulfill it, then it becomes a loan. So there are lots of different ways to finance school. So do know that there are monies out there. The other thing is they will put you sometimes on plans if you don't have all the funds. And you are right now, because of COVID, there's a lot of money out there for school. So some of our schools, and some schools did a better job about sharing this than others, but I'm proud of the fact, Voorhees, any student who still had money that or money on their bills, because using some of that COVID money, we wiped the slate clean for every student, and students came back with zero to start the year. And a number of institutions did that. And so there are funds out there, you all. So even when you think you're running out of financial aid, if you go to the financial aid office and you talk to them about your situation, you'd be surprised. People find money. So that's the thing, is that there are different things out there, but you got to ask. There are banks, and right now, I told y'all, supporting Black folks is fashionable right now. So you got banks who are offering things. You got people who will give you a little loan for your car if you're in school. It's all sorts of things out there. So you just really have to tap into it. But the key is knowing that FAFSA piece, that is the start to everything. Even on a full academic scholarship, they're going to want you to fill out that paperwork because they want to get that free federal money and deduct that from what they actually have to pay for you. So you're not going to get away. I'm just giving it to you real. So you are not going to get around the FAFSA. You got to fill it out.
Like, my grandmother, man, would always tell us, you have not because you ask not.
That's right.
Okay. Make sure that you apply for every scholarship there is, y'all. Please make sure that you apply. My young men get so many scholarships, because, man, there's no rock that we don't lift up, right? Like, we always looking for scholarships, right? So my nonprofit gives out scholarships. So right now we give out 2 scholarships per year. We pay for textbook scholarships, wow. Right? So we pay for your textbooks for the spring, then fall as well. So we give 2 young men $500 each to purchase their books, right? But listen, we have so many nonprofits, man, they do stuff like that, right? But you have to do your research, y'all. Just don't take no. Listen, do not take no for an answer, okay? Because listen, man, one closed door, that's not the last door, okay? Make sure that you go out there and find that money, y'all. Find that money. Listen, man, we can go out here and find shoes, right? Find pocketbooks and stuff like that, right? But man, you can't find money for your kid to go to college.
Amen.
Come on. Let's find this money, man. Listen, make sure that your kids go to those college fairs. That is so important, y'all. Make sure that they go to those college fairs, because Listen, man, we have schools right now that will give you a full scholarship, man, the moment you sign up. Okay. So make sure that you do your due diligence, man. Find that money, man, for your kids, please.
I think the both of you sum that up perfectly. I just want to add, with the money that you do receive, have a plan. When it comes to financial aid, I suggest not taking out more or borrowing more than what you need, because that money does have to be paid back. Of course, there are forgivable loans. If you're in public service, for instance, they have where if you pay every month for 10 years, then the rest will be forgiven. But you have to look at the time of that. You have to look at when you graduate, then it's 10 years from that. And then there has been some kind of hiccups along the way when it comes to forgiving those loans. Scholarships and grants are the way to go because you don't have to pay those back. So like what Mr. Tucker and Dr. Mitchell said, apply for everything, even if you don't think that your essay is up to par. Because what I'm hearing when I receive scholarship notices to send out to students, they say no one's applying for these. We just have the money. No one's applied.
That's right.
So if there's free money out there, get it. If you have a refund at the end of your semester because you have too much money, or at the end of the year, don't waste that money buying the new Jordans or whatever, trying to make a fashion statement. Invest that money, save that money for another year, because you may need it. So just be very responsible with money, because it might be more money that you have seen ever, at one time. So just be responsible with that money.
Thank you.
Nice.
Real quick. Last year, my fraternity, my chapter, that is, we had two scholarships, two $3,000 scholarships that were available for young men, and nobody applied for it. Nobody applied for it. So y'all make sure that you do your due diligence and listen, man, please apply for everything there is, y'all. Please apply for it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I'm gonna take a 2 seconds just to shake off a little bit. And now this is my favorite part of the conversation. We're gonna talk about campus life and what's it really like to attend an HBCU. Now this is the down and dirty. So we did have all these lists of questions, but I think the conversation has been flowing so well that we just want to get your take on campus life. So some of the questions that we had was, what kind of social events are there on campus? What are the dorms like? What are the facility services for religious services? So just in talking about joining clubs and organizations. So I'm just going to throw that out there for you, campus life, and let you all expound on what HBCU, and for Brianna, if she wants to jump in on her side of things, of what campus life is really like.
So I'll start first real quick. All right. Just listen, there's nothing like going to school at the illustrious South Carolina State University. When you walking when you walking around that campus, man, you see the band playing and stuff like that, man. I mean, you just hear so many good things, man. And like my first year there, I was deprived because my aunt, so she would not let me stay with her, right? My first year there. So I had to stay with my grandmother that lived 30 minutes down the road, right? She stayed, and you guys might know this little town called Bamberg, South Carolina. You ever heard of that? And she said, son, you stay with me, you have to be in the house by 8 o'clock. Yes, sir. 8 o'clock. So I'm 21 years old and I have to be in the house by 8 o'clock for a whole year. So my first year of college, you know, I had no campus life. My my day consists of going to work, right? Going to tutoring, going to class, then home by 8 o'clock. That whole year. So when I finished that first year and I moved into my own apartment, man, I was a wild child, right? You know, but I was thankful to be around so many positive people though. So, you know, we had fun. Don't get me wrong. We had fun, but we also did our work as well. And that, you know, that's the balance that we have to learn, how to have fun, right? But how to handle your business also. And, you know, they taught me that, you know, because, you know, there were times where you would go to a party and you come home, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but man, you got a test at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? But then you have to learn how to say, hey, you know what, I'm just not going to that party tonight, right? And that taught me discipline as well, because shoot, man, when you committed to something, you know, your moves change a little bit, right? And, you know, going to that school, man, you know, being around so many positive people, you know, that was committed to their process, right? You know, that taught me how to commit to my process. So yes, you have fun, and we met so many, man, phenomenal people, man, football games, man, basketball games, man, and, you know, man, you join the best frat ever, okay? The best frat ever there is, you know what I'm saying? And there's no question that, you know, yes, we had some phenomenal times, but, you know, but the best time that I had was walking across that stage, right? And that's what matters, right? You know, yes, you go to college, you know what I'm saying? But you have to make sure that when those 4 years are over with, that you left by handling your business. Yeah.
Agreed. Listen, I tell people all the time, if I can do it all again, I would. Campus life was the best. We stayed in Truth Hall. Actually, Jessica was my roommate at Truth Hall, South Carolina State. So she can attest to, like, we had some great times, but it's very important. It will test how responsible you are. I was on the band. That made it even better. At the time, I didn't always think so, because being up at 5 o'clock for practice and not going to sleep until 12 o'clock because we're preparing for homecoming or, you know, some football game where we're traveling or something. But it was a great experience. The sorority and fraternity, the Greek life, I should say, wonderful. It's amazing how we can be so competitive at so many things, but once we're in that plaza together, it's just unity. I'm a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. So when we were in the plaza with AKAs and Zetas and Deltas, it was like we were one, especially when we would do our different strolls and everything, and we're just entertaining ourselves and everybody else. Even the ones who were on looking were having a great time. So that was advertisement at the time. We didn't know that, but we were advertising. So I don't know how it is anywhere else. I can't even speak to anywhere else. I just know that my experience was the best. I do say I highly, 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 highly recommend staying on campus your freshman year. Even your sophomore year, I suggest staying on campus. We didn't have a car, so I don't know if that, well, I take that back. I stuck my car on. I don't recommend anybody do that. So I did have a car for part of the time until it caught up with me. But without having a car, it was great as well because you were walking everywhere, you were meeting everybody, you were talking with one another. Um, you got to know the area outside of your campus, and knowing that you have the barber shop and the different local restaurants, and those people also more than likely attending the HBCU. So while you're there getting your hair done or grabbing some food or whatever, you're getting information about your school and getting to know that they know people that you know, and just creating bridges. So I wouldn't change anything for, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I would do it all again because it was a great experience.
Well, I have to say I agree. I will tell you, I definitely worked hard, but I played hard and had a great experience for undergrad. So what the first thing I'll tell you about campus life is to get involved, find some organization or some activities, because you want to make sure that you're connected on campus, because that's how you really get the most out of the experience. So I was a member of the performing arts company, so theater, all of that, and then also student government. I ended up being student government president at Benedict, and so always was involved in student council and all that, even in high school. So that was just a natural fit for me. And I'm one of those people, I want to be a part of the decision making. I don't like to be acted upon. So I liked knowing what was happening on campus. So now, if I can just be perfectly honest, though, so I told you all I was from Kansas. So I'm not Southern. I'm from the Midwest. So I get to college and I found out they got a curfew for college people. And I'm grown. I'm thinking I'm way past grown. I could not believe they wanted me to be in that dorm at 12. And then you couldn't have any visitation. I'm just telling you about the HBCU. So, no fellas could visit. I did not understand what they were saying to me. So it took a little bit of time for me to understand that. And I finally decided I will comply because if we behaved the first semester, then they would lighten up on the freshmen of the next semester. So out of respect for my other freshmen females, I behaved and followed the rules, and then we were set free a little bit later on. But I really had to adjust it. I'll tell the truth. I was one of those people. I'm really telling you how colorful I am. And there's a reason I'm telling you how colorful I was, because there's hope for us. I literally had an ID so I could do what I wanted to do a little earlier than I was supposed to. And I remember coming down here and I couldn't go to see some movies that I'd already seen in Kansas because of the age thing. So it was just the cultural shift was really different for me. But what I found out is some of those people that I thought were in my business, let me give you an example. They had a freshman seminar and it was for study, skills, and you learning the alma mater and all that. And I'm thinking, this is a complete and utter waste of my time. I did not appreciate having to go to that seminar. And it was during the Young and the Restless. It was at 11:30. So I'm thinking, it's not even a real class. And it's during Young and Restless. But do you know I had a professor who left her class and came and got me? So I was real clear that she was not playing with me. So my point is that they are all in your business. And so even with the social, they're going to make sure that they're watching you. And so joining Alpha Kappa Alpha, I didn't do that until my junior year is when I joined the sorority and really got involved and held various offices there. But tight-knit, so I see the roommates are still on the call today. I'm still very close with my college roommate. I had the same roommate all 4 years. She's also a soror. I was number one because I was short. My number two is my best girlfriend today. And we'll be coming down for homecoming in just a second. HBCU go to, it seems like everybody's is named the calf. None of us call it the cafeteria or the dining hall. It's the calf. And so Chicken Wednesdays or the holidays with the music pumping. I just the parties in the gym, like there is nothing like it. So I did what I was supposed to do. I really did. And I was very serious and focused, and I was very official in my student government role. But when I tell you, I had a good time and got the most out of my experience. I left nothing, nothing on the floor at Benedict College when I was there.
Absolutely. There's nothing like a HBCU on campus. Nothing like it. I'm even gonna tell no stories. I might get myself in trouble. But absolutely, it's more than just you're a student. You have joined a family whenever you go to an HBCU. You really do. So, okay. So next we're going to briefly talk about careers. And then after that, lifelong friends, and end it with HBCU. So we're coming down. It's about a half an hour left. So we're gonna run through this stuff. You guys have been awesome. This has been, I can't even explain how, beyond words of how well this is going. So we'll start with Janice. Do you want to ask your question?
Okay. Ooh, seems like everyone is talking my life. When it comes to careers, or what can you tell us about maybe internships or other avenues that students can be involved in, so they can really know whether or not the path that they are on is really for them, especially before it's too late, or anything that you can share that will help a student to find their niche. Thank you.
Well, one thing I suggest when it comes to finding internships is that first year of school to create a LinkedIn page. And if you create a LinkedIn page, then you're able to see that job search, and you'll see a lot of internships that are there that might not show up when you go to or maybe available at your school, that on their list. So I suggest doing that. And also, while you're doing that, you're also kind of building your resume as well. So LinkedIn is a really good what would you call it, social media tool to use. Another thing is, a lot of schools have partnerships with different companies. So I know Claflin, I believe, has a relationship with Google where they offer internships and even additional money to come with that. South Carolina State also has their USDA program, where once you go into that, I believe you're paid. Well, your every year that you attend is paid for by the USDA. You have a summer internship, which is paid in Wisconsin, I believe, and then upon graduation, you have a job for the amount of time that they paid for you in school. So if you were 4 years at South Carolina State University, then you would have a guaranteed 4-year job with the USDA. So again, that kind of comes with the research as well, talking to your departments about opportunities that are available, but also looking at any internships that are on social media, and also local internships as well. In my personal experience, even though I was an education major, I had also where I had to do pre-step, where I would go to schools and I would observe and work in the classroom and helping the teacher. But also there was a local opportunity at the water company here, and I was able to go in for a summer, and it was paid, and able to see how it was with working, at, I guess, with utilities, and that was something I never even thought about doing, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it could have been something that I said, okay, you know what, instead of education, I'm going to go this route. But I really, really enjoyed education. I wanted to stick with it, but it gave me, another view of another sector I can go into. And even now, that's something I could pull from those resources to assist me in the career that I have now. So just doing your research, local, statewide, and on social media, the opportunities that are out there.
So what I would add to that is that just about every institute, all of them have a career services department on their campus. And so a part of their work is to help you find different opportunities, whether it's internships or work even after you graduate. Now, at both Benedict and at Voorhees, we had experiential components, right? So at Benedict, everybody has to earn 120 hours of service learning before they're able to graduate. And so they have to perform some sort of work related to their majors. At Voorhees, it is the same requirement. We call it experiential learning. And so it could be an internship. It could be where it is simply some shadowing, but it's where you have to actually apply the content. So it's not just you're getting the theory, but getting real experience. And what this does is give you an edge, because it lets you know earlier than at the end if you're not moving in an area that really, again, lines up with who you are and what it is that you want to do. It also gives you some experience. So in addition to just having that degree, you can talk about some specific things you've done and you've learned while you were at school. So it will give you something to talk about in the interview process. It'll give you something to be able to really demonstrate as you're trying to distinguish yourself from other people. And so definitely get it involved. I will say though, while I was an undergrad, my major was English education, and I was in the honors program, and we had certain things you had to do, certain experiences. And so this is why getting involved is critical. How about I literally was forced to go to Israel. I taught English as a second language to Israeli middle school children. I had my 21st birthday in Israel because I had that experience. When it was time to interview for a job, and they would get to the part where they would talk about, so how are you with diversity and working with children from different backgrounds? And I could talk about the 3 months I spent teaching in Israel. The interview was over. They didn't ask me any more questions. We talked about Israel. So having those kinds of experiences, they separate you from other people. So definitely, and so that was an internship of sorts, and that was in addition to the student teaching that I had to do. So again, it's about making sure that you connect with the different kinds of opportunities on your campus, whether it's that career services or it's the different projects, your department chair. So that's why having people who know you on campus is important, because they will, sometimes they want a little arsenal of people. They talk about the different partnerships. So Voorhees has partnerships with IBM. We've got partnerships with Boeing. Literally, we can call, they might call us and say, we have this kind of slot or this kind of job. Who do you have? And we can put our hands on students and say, you know what, we're going to put this student before you. So making sure that you get involved really gives you that extra edge.
Man, you pretty much covered it all. The one thing that I will say is make sure, by your freshman year, make sure that you start networking now. Right? Network, man. Get out there and be active. I was, blessed to go to some symposiums, and man, I'm telling you, they changed my life, man. Symposiums, right? Workshops, right? Man, listen, man, get those business cards, but use those business cards, man. Call those people back, call them back. My first job when I left Washington, D.C., when I graduated with my master's, my first job was in Washington, D.C. And this guy hired me that met me in Florida, right? Going to a symposium. And, this guy remembered me, but I just took a wild chance, right? By calling his phone, and he answered, and we had a 30-minute conversation, and he hired me the very next day, right? That was my first job leaving grad school, right? So make sure you tell people, man, get out there and use your resources, right? But you have to be active, man, right? Go out there and find those jobs, right? But make sure that you also volunteer. There's nothing wrong with volunteering. And listen, you have to earn your keeps out here, man. So please volunteer. my nonprofit, we always volunteering for stuff, right? We go downtown Columbia once a month to give to the homeless. And you'll never know who you meet down there helping, right? So make sure that you go out, man, do your research, but make sure that, you give your time, right? So people know how hungry you really are.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we're winding down, so we're gonna have two more questions. One, so Rhonda, that last question under HBCU, and then we're gonna do our very last question.
I just know that I had two under HBCU. So which one were you? The first or the second?
The second one.
Okay. Second. Okay. Would you recommend your HBCU for individuals looking for a college? And if so, why? And y'all kind of touched on it, but I'm letting you kind of showcase your HBCU at this point.
Well, simply because we are the best. We are the best. So,
I second that.
Yeah. Why not come to us?
Well, I can't believe y'all gonna let me do a shameless plug, and I'm sure gonna do it. So let me tell you why you need to come to Voorhees College. I don't know if you all know, but South Carolina has a jewel and is one of the best kept secrets. So Voorhees actually is one of two HBCUs in the country that was founded by an African-American female. One of two and the first. The other is not only was she an African-American female, but she was 23 years old. And not only was she 23, but she was a school teacher. And so there is a rich legacy and a history. And what I love about her, she was such a bad girl, you all. She was sharp. She was in some sort of conversation and somebody was impressed with her and they were trying to offer her a job. And she said, "Thank you, but I am not seeking a position for myself. I am going to open a school for boys and girls of my race so that they can they can create useful lives." That is so powerful for me. And that to me epitomizes who we are, one as an institution, Voorhees College, and as HBCUs in general. It was deeper than her. Even at that young age, she was about uplifting her entire community and making sure that people had an opportunity. Voorhees College is committed to making sure that students of any background, of any situation, have an opportunity to create the kind of lives they desire for themselves. We have 16 majors. We have programs that are online and so face-to-face, of course, traditional programs, but also online for working adults. We also, though, have a Center of Excellence for Educator Preparation and Innovation. That is for people who want to go back to school to become teachers. So there are for working adults, for people who want to switch into education, there are opportunities there. So what I can say is we have something for everyone, whether you are right out of high school and just ready to go to college, whether you've been out for a while and now you want to go back, we've got something for you. So I definitely recommend Voorhees College. You can have a very boutique kind of experience. We're interested in finding out who you are and what it is that you need and making sure that you get what you need to be successful.
Well,
that's the provost spiel. I had to give it.
That's not fair.
That sounds like you do that a lot.
Honey, I mean that though.
But
I can't stand that is a sister of that age had that kind of tenacity, and 125 years later, that school is still rocking. I'm so proud of that. I can't stand it.
And that's something to be proud of. That is. I will say for South Carolina State, I don't have a whole spiel like Dr. Mitchell. While I encourage students to go to all, any HBCU that's of their interest, I will say that South Carolina State University does have a rich history in itself. The fact that it's the only public HBCU in South Carolina. We're the only school that I believe has the transportation major, and that is where the money is right now. I was there for music education. I speak highly of the education program at South Carolina State University. Every time I go into a teacher's classroom that has been a graduate of South Carolina State University, I will say those are some of the strongest classroom I have seen in my time teaching. So, you know, I have to give it to the education program at South Carolina State University. Also, when it comes to the history of it, there's not so much, everything's not golden. We do have the Orangeburg Massacre that was a part, but that is a part of our history. And I encourage people to look into the Orangeburg Massacre because those are one of the things in history in the US that is overlooked a lot of times. So I encourage everyone to look into the Orangeburg Massacre and what that did to South Carolina State and for South Carolina State University. And we are continuing to grow. We're continuing to take students and mold them into greatness. So there are so many decorated military officers out there that came through South Carolina State University, as well as just looking at professionals and doctors and lawyers that have come through South Carolina State University. So I'm always going to be for Bulldog Country. Plus, our homecomings are #1.
Best.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I would be remiss if I did not give my alma mater, Benedict, a shout out as well.
BBC.
So I'm gonna have to do that too. So Benedict literally changed my life and turned me into a scholar against my will even. I wanted to get I had a scholarship. All I wanted to do was keep my little money and get on back to Kansas. But they took me out of my shell and forced me, and literally when they saw potential in me, they would push me. And so that's one of the things that I really cannot say enough, but it's a very strong program. They're doing amazing things with their, they've got a women's center for business that's very new. They've got more than 30 majors. You know, I was the Dean of Education, Health, and Human Services there. So I got a Benedict spiel too. So I will say, make sure that you, of course, choose the institution that resonates with who you are, but I just would not give anything for my experience at Benedict, nor my experience even now at Voorhees.
All right. Well, we have come to our last and final question of the day. And so, Rhonda, would you like to ask that question, please?
Absolutely. And Sarah Demera, I'm just going to say, unlike the Wiz or the Wizard of Oz, Kansas can't have you back. So, but yes, last question. Moving forward, how do HBCU alumni ensure that current and more specifically future generations understand the importance and type of influence HBCUs have on our world from a cultural, global, and overall socioeconomic standpoint? And I think that's going to kind of bring everything together in a nutshell.
It's kind of a tough question also, but what I would say is just to be exposed and to make sure that we shine, we have a light to shine. And, we have so many, phenomenal people doing, some incredible work that needs, to be highlighted, right? And, these young kids need to know that, they are the next generation. And you can go wherever you want from a historical Black college, right? You can do, you can be whatever you wanted to be, right? When I was in, when I was working for the federal government, when I was living in Washington, D.C., when I was working, the guy next to me, that shared cubicles with me, right, graduated from Harvard. And we had the exact same job, right? Making the exact same pay. So you can go, there's nothing you can do, or there's nothing that you can't do coming from a historical Black college. Yeah.
So I agree with that wholeheartedly. What I can tell you is that, and I can't, because there's some stats that talk about the percentage of professionals that are produced by HBCUs. Even though we are, this is what, a little over 100, the number vacillates depending on the source, HBCUs, but we are producing a vast majority of the professionals in all sorts of fields. Right. And so when you look at the people who have gone on to be very successful, many of them, not all of course, but many of them come from historically Black institutions. And it's because a lot of them have a foundation and a grounding in who they are. And they've been supported and built up. And so I think the world is beginning to take note of all the contributions, which is why you're seeing more and more. You're even seeing some of these, and I feel some kind of way about it, because you're starting to see stores like JCPenney's about making HBCU t-shirts and things now. People are trying to get in on it. And then even people who are not African American now are becoming more and more interested in our institutions. There's a secret sauce at our institutions, and it really is about the relationships and the connections that are made. I think panelist Robertson was talking about, it's not about the brick and mortars. You may go to other institutions and they've got the fancy buildings and all these amenities. But at the end of the day, and this actually is based on my research, some of my research was about what makes students successful, especially first-gen students. It's the relationships and the connections. It's people investing. It's people getting to know you and making sure you got access to resources. And so I think that's one of the major differences with our institutions and others, and how it separates us from other institutions.
I agree with both of you. And I wanted to add just something small. With going to an HBCU, we all have gone to different HBCUs. I see Hampton University. You have Voorhees.
Yes.
What's that? I'm seeing some of the FAMU. Okay, I'm seeing. But we're all connected still. So it doesn't matter where we went. We have an HBCU in common. And I think when we go out and we're either spending time with our families, or we're going and, you're going for a job opportunity, I think it says something when you have an interviewer that has been to an HBCU. It might not be the same HBCU as you, but they see that you went to an HBCU, and in their eyes, they're already giving you, okay, you know what? I know that he or she is about something great because they went to this HBCU. Same thing when you're out with your family and you see someone with the tag that's from Hampton or Howard or Voorhees or South Carolina State. And you're like, I didn't go there. There might be some rivalry there as well, but you have something in common, and there's a certain respect that goes with that. So that's what I think that kind of sums up how an HBCU is. I don't know if that can be said with other universities, if they see someone else, USC and UNC, if that's the same. But I feel that resonates in the HBCU family. So
one last thing, y'all. Make sure that you're coming to, your home games and stuff like that, right? Show your support. Okay, come back to campus. Come to the basketball games, man, football games, baseball games. Come out and let people see, how prideful you are. Because we go to these big schools, right? There are like 90,000 people there, right? That come to the football games, right? But then you go to a Benedict game or a South Carolina State game, then you might have 2,000 people there, right? Let's show our support, not just by words, but just by actions also.
Mhm. And I want to kind of piggyback off of what you said. If you have an opportunity where you have students, doesn't matter what age, and you can expose them in some kind of way, whether through your organization or in your classroom, for instance, and you can expose them to a football game or to some kind of informational about HBCUs. For example, I took my students one time to a South Carolina State University band camp that was for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And that right there was a huge impact on my students. They hear about South Carolina State University, they hear about HBCUs, but they really don't know until they actually see it, until they experience it. And till this day, they're in high school now, they're asking about South Carolina State University because they were around students that looked like them and that were successful and were putting hard work in. So when they experienced that right there was, they wanted to go there. They wanted to experience either South Carolina State or some HBCU. So that was a great recruitment tool and turnaround. Doesn't matter what anybody says about an HBCU, they already have an experience about an HBCU, and they're like, you know what, you might say this, but I went there and I experienced this. So if you have an opportunity to get students there, no matter what age, even if they're your little kids and you're taking them to a football game, that's how I grew up, going to homecomings at a young age and saying, this is where I want to be, then I say to do so.
Absolutely.
Just don't go to FAMU.
We knew somebody was gonna cut up, right?
Okay. I had to come off of silence. On that note, I had to come off of silence. I was being good. Just don't get mad because our marching 100s tear y'all apart.
Hey, we can't talk right now, so I'm silent with that right now.
Yes, I bet you are.
Yeah, we can't talk about the band stuff right now.
It's all right. We leave it right there on the field.
Yeah. We'll see y'all soon. Yeah.
You know what? I didn't give any love to Claflin. I needed to make sure I do that as well. I spent a little time working at Claflin as well. So I mean this HBCU thing, by the way. So that is an extraordinary institution who's done some amazing things, and certainly in a very short window of time in terms of historically the impact they've made. So we've just got some great institutions here in South Carolina. South Carolina has a lot of them clustered in one area, and so we're fortunate in a lot of ways. There's Morris there, Allen is growing and budding, so we're doing some great things. There's even Clinton Junior College that a lot of people don't talk about, which is also an HBCU. Yeah. So we're fortunate here in South Carolina to have so many jewels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Denmark Tech too.
That's right. Our neighbor, you're right. They're doing great things as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, this has definitely been inspiring. Just to go back through everything that we discussed, we talked about admissions to HBCUs. We discussed the support system. I found this little thing online where it talked about percentage of Black college graduates who strongly agree that they felt support at an HBCU as compared to non-HBCUs. We talked about financial aid. We talked about campus life, the fun, and also making sure that you get your work done and graduating. We talked about the different careers that you can have from your HBCU experience. Of course, your lifelong friends that you establish at your HBCUs. We also talked about the HBCUs in general, There's so many. I mean, you can find any HBCU to kind of fit what you're looking for to get out of life. We talked about South Carolina State. There's Cheney University in Pennsylvania. There's Voorhees, of course, Hampton, and FAMU, as well as Clafton and Virginia State University. I mean, they're all over the United States in different areas, different cities and states. So we ask you for you to explore the different opportunities that are there. I know that we are kind of like at our end, but if anyone had a burning question and they just had to ask, is there anyone out there that had a question that they wanted to ask this panel? Because I think they covered it all pretty well.
I just want to say what a phenomenal panel discussion, and wish we could do it long. We're gonna ask you all to come back later, sometime later, because there's more to cover. But you all have been phenomenal, and we appreciate you so very much. Just awesome.
Absolutely.
And but since there is a Miss Sigma Gamma Rho, I won't say AKA awesome, but I'll say Poodle awesome. We don't have a thing, but we AKA awesome, and where y'all go? I can't do the thing, Mr. Omega, but everything has just been truly, truly awesome. And I put in the chat, I'm so thankful for all of the institutions that were listed today, because I've had students who are recipients of their financial generosity that allowed them to go to school on partial or full scholarship. So I'm most grateful.
And I want to, in closing, I want to ask Jessica, who was the chair for this event, if she would like to give some words.
I'm just excited. It was a great panel discussion. I'm so glad and thankful for you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was excellent. That's all I got to say. Oh, South Carolina State Bulldogs always.
And in absence of our president, Sora Dion, we do have our vice president, our vice president, Constance Gardner, on the line. I wasn't sure if she wanted to say any words in closing as well. I think she's here.
Sorry, I'm still here, sorry,
Okay.
Serena. Okay, you and your committee and the panelists did an excellent job. Okay, I got on late, but what I caught, I enjoyed thoroughly. And hats off to the entire committee. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thank you. And I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Serena Miles, and I am a member of the Nu Delta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I am the committee chair for the HBCU for Life. I brought out a million ideas whenever we first started with our program this year, and everything kind of like, happened. Some things happened, some things fell apart, but the one thing that we strongly wanted to do was this discussion. And this committee is one of the most committed people I have ever worked with in my life. And I just give kudos to them for everything that they do. They are awesome to work with. They are positive people. And that's what you need to have in your life, those positive people that no matter what, that they are there and support you. So I say to you all, thank you. And I love you all from the bottom of my heart. To these panelists, I could not have planned this any better. Your knowledge, your heart and love for the HBCU shone through tremendously. And even if we touched one student today, it was all worth it, because the knowledge that you have imparted today is for a lifetime. I mean, I even learned some things, and I went to the HBCU. right? So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to each one of you, to Amy, to Demera, to Terrence. You all were awesome. And like she said, I'm not losing your number. There's something else we gotta do. I haven't got it in my mind yet, but we're gonna plan something else, and hopefully to have all of you involved. So again, thank you for everything that you have done, and it's truly appreciated.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed myself today, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Guys.
And so Rhonda and Janet, it's been a while since I've seen you all, so it's great to see you, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for having us.
Sorry,
You too.
Y'all.
Stars, my name is Sora Clarice Gibbons Allen, and I'm a member of Nu Delta Omega chapter also. And I'm very happy that I was able to participate today. You did an outstanding job. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As I've said, I'm not a graduate of an HBCU, but I love you, love you, love you. My short experiences with it, the setting is just phenomenal. Even as an older adult traveling with my daughter at the time, looking at schools, I got it once we got on campus with the students there. It was just totally different. It enriched your soul. I mean, for being at an academic environment where you saw so many people that looked like you, that you knew then had your back, supported you, gave you experiences that you would not find at a predominantly white school. And then the lifelong relationships that I see so many of my sorority sisters seem to carry on through the years, that I unfortunately know that I don't have that kind of broad depth of friendships from my college experiences at a PWI. And I just encourage you to really give it a good look, make the applications. It's not, you can't go wrong. Lastly, I'm the connections committee person for our chapter. And I would be remiss if I did not say to you students, be sure to find out how to register to vote. Once you get to your campus, find out when voting occurs, how to do absentee ballots for your state, and vote, vote, vote. Register, register, register. They're gonna make it a challenge. Don't be deterred from doing it. It's a mandatory, it's a must. It's to keep your HBCUs going. That's all I got to say. Good luck on your search.
All right. And this concludes our program. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.